Now, Donald Trump has promised to wage a war on woke. The next US president has vowed to end trans rights in sport and boot out diversity and inclusion hires in all public services. You might say hurrah, or you might be crying into your liberal tears. Well, is this the end for woke, and should we be celebrating that? Well, joining me now to discuss this is the director of the New Culture Forum, Peter Whittle, who joins me in the studio, and the human rights and activist Peter Tatchell, who joins me down the line. Gentlemen, welcome to you. Let's start with you, Peter Whittle. Yes. You did an excellent piece I saw this morning from the New Culture Forum, talking about why you think the war on woke is a good thing.
I think it is. I think it's, shall we say, a body blow to woke, because it is so embedded, and by that I mean woke ideology, identity politics, all of these things. And essentially, it's across all institutions in America, education, the civil service, universities, definitely. It's exactly the same here. So, in fact, it's very embedded, so it will take some time. But I think that this has been an enormous kind of a huge fillip and a huge boost to those of us who spend our time fighting against what I think is utterly destructive ideology, which is pretty much held power now for, well, a good 5 years, getting on for 10 years.
Peter Tatchell, do you think that the identity politics, inclusion, equality, started out as very well-meaning, but it became something of a monster?
Well, it certainly started out, and for the most part still is about uplifting and supporting people who are vulnerable and who are left behind. So I've been involved in the campaign supporting the WASPy woman, that is the women in Britain born in the 1950s who've lost out on their state pensions. And shamefully, the Labour government has not delivered the compensation that it promised when it was in opposition. So I don't think it's woke or bad that I'm defending and supporting those very brave, courageous women who've been badly
Peter,
let down.
I don't think defending pensioners is what we're talking about. That's something that anyone would agree is fair. This is about allowing biological men to play sport against women. It's about hiring people on their identity politics rather than on their merit. That's the conversation here. That is what Donald Trump is waging war on.
Well, what Donald Trump calls woke is what most of us call kindness and respect for others. But on the points you raise, very important points, yes, there is an issue about trans women in sport. And as everyone knows, I've opposed a blanket ban on trans women in sport, but I do think there should be individual assessment, as there is already, and those who are deemed to have an unfair advantage should not be eligible. On the issue of equality and inclusion, that does include elderly folk. It includes women and ethnic minorities, but they should be protected based on merit, not on special privileges. And no one's arguing in favour of special privileges. We just want a fair and equal playing field for everyone. And that, I think, is the British liberal value.
No, Peter, you're totally evading the point here. You know what we're both talking about. We're talking about identity politics. We're talking about trans ideology. We're talking about all of those things. We're talking about critical race theory, all of these things that have infected all of our institutions. It's nothing to do with kindness. If anything, it's the opposite of that. These things are an attack, actually, on our very kind of way of life. They are an attack on the established foundations of our civilization, actually. This is why this particular victory for Trump is so important. And in fact, I'd go further than that, actually. It's not just a sort of victory for Trump. It's a victory for American people. They knew what they were getting with Trump, and they voted for him in greater numbers than ever before. Anyone who is opposed to ideology of woke and identity politics should be very, very pleased right now.
Peter Tatchell?
No one is in favour of any oppressive ideology except a very, very tiny, unrepresented minority.
Not true.
What most people are saying is, yes, there is a problem. In our major institutions, there's an underrepresentation of women and ethnic minority people, and we need to correct that. Not by promoting people who don't merit it or don't deserve it, but by acknowledging that there are very competent, well-qualified women and black people who could do top
but
jobs.
But there are very competent white working class people too, who, Peter, who, for example, aren't welcome anymore in the military.
Sorry?
There are very competent white working class men as well who are being deliberately, specifically excluded from inclusivity, for example, in the RAF.
Well, that example you highlight, I disagree with that. I agree.
But that is what woke does. That's what it does.
People should be promoted on merit, and discrimination against white working class people or anybody is wrong. And that's what the Equality Act says. The Equality Act of 2010 protects white working class people as much as everyone else.
Where? Peter?
No.
Well,
Peter,
one of the issues is the underperformance of young white boys in schools.
Yeah, and there's no equality to protect them. You know it, Peter Tatchell. There is no equality to protect them. Peter Whittle.
The point is, Peter, that you talk about merit there, and I would agree with you. But the fact is that the whole point of identity politics and DEI and all of these things is actually anti-merit, right? It's actually basically putting people forward or preferring them because of various characteristics. That is the situation we're in. Any fight back from that, and if it comes in the form of Donald Trump, is a very, very good thing. Can I also add another thing? It goes further than that. It's also the attacks that there have been on our history, the attacks on the whole idea of the nation. All of these things, people have absolutely had enough of it. And I hope that the effect of this victory will actually go right across the West.
OK, gentlemen, we have to call it time there. We're simply run out of time. We have to go to the news. Peter Whittle and Peter Tatchell, thank you very, very much for a most lively woke debate.